Yeah, hello everyone, and thanks for having us today. Today we will present you one client example of one of our recent projects where we helped our client to overcome integration challenges and to refine and update their current architecture. We're both with Deloitte Consulting for more than 5 years now. We both focus on IT strategy, IT architecture, and also digital business platforms. So the project we want to present today, it was a very large automotive client, and the client situation basically was that there were a lot of ivory towers. They had different departments, HR, for example, procurement, or finance. In each of the different departments, they had their own approach to integration. For example, they developed their own integration, developed their own APIs. Sometimes it turned out, okay, we have the same development costs. We basically have the same development, the same integrations. We have a huge overload of costs, inefficiency, and really there's a lot of need to be more effective in managing integrations. You can see here in the picture, it was basically a mess, and our approach and the vision of the client was to really integrate it, to have a common approach across the company for all integrations, managing it, which means organization, technology, and then processes, basically. To solve this, the client has asked us to refine a concept. And in the past, we have done this in several projects and locations together successful with LeanIX. We have a very strong long-term partnership together with LeanIX since 2018. We also have published a lot of different materials regarding ServiceNow, SAP together with LeanIX. And we started off with the client. It was a really high-level workshop discussion together with the client to find out what should really a long-term platform for integration really look like. It was really important for the client that the source system across the company is really available to different clients within the company and outside the company. This was the first point. Then also very important was a holistic API management across the company. So API should be exchanged from different department to department. It should be easy to find APIs for developers to get information about APIs. So this was really a very important and key point for the client. Also, what we found out during discussion, that a lot of the legacy systems were not that performant. Also, it took a long time very often to get the data, process data, then also write it back again. For this, we defined together with the client that a data virtualization layer is really required to this, to really have an abstraction layer and really get the performance in the areas where it should be in the future. And of course, when you define a long-term integration platform, you really need a set of future-proven technologies. This was really the basis and what we agreed on. This platform for integration should be there for a very long term, 15 or 20 years at least. And of course, we also considered data privacy, data security topics. This was always in our mind from the very beginning on. So how did we do this? We had then, as mentioned, our initial workshop where we defined our mission, what we want to achieve. And then we had, based on this, defined 3 sentences and hypotheses to say, how can we deal with it? How can a future solution to tackle integration challenges look like in the future? Based on these 3 sentences, we defined also some questions, discussed different criteria. So we discussed, for example, which of these 3 hypotheses has the best performance, has the best costs, or is easy to implement. So there were a lot of different criteria we discussed there. And for each of the different scenarios, then we came to also a target architecture that might be possible for the client in the future. The 3 different scenarios I talked about were mainly, first scenario was that we only use SAP technology. SAP provides a wide range of really proven technologies. They have cloud platform integration, for example, where the cloud integrations can be handled. And SAP was one possible solution to manage all integrations for the client in the future. The second option was that their own development, which they have currently, and then also MuleSoft as another technology can be used. MuleSoft is the technology that also provides a lot of out-of-the-box integrations to integrate different systems, SAP or non-SAP systems as well. And then scenario 3 was we combine the 2 technologies I just mentioned. So we have SAP, we have MuleSoft technologies, and we combine it into one architecture. This was then the option which the client decided to go forward with. The reason for it mainly was that the client wanted to have the best flexibility. Both technologies offer a lot of out-of-the-box integration, and for each integration case, the client wanted to have the best option. Of course, it has the disadvantage of maybe have a bit additional complexity and additional costs, but its main advantage of the high flexibility was the main priority for the client at this point. What you can see here now is a more detailed look on then the integration architecture that we defined for the client. You can find on the very bottom side, you can find different source systems. These can be basically any source systems, can be SAP, non-SAP, can be cloud or non-cloud. So basically any source system you can imagine, you can find on the bottom. And then on the very top, you can find also any consumer. So it was important that any consumer can be cloud, not cloud, or SAP and non-SAP, or even data warehouses can be consumers of the different data. And then in the middle, you would have where all the magic then basically happens. You would have the 2 integration technologies, SAP and MuleSoft. And as mentioned, for each use case, the client wanted to have the best technology, and the client also wanted to have the best, or could also always have the best option, and always had the option to choose between one of the 2 technologies. We also had then a data integration layer, basically just for connecting the different sources, and also a data virtualization layer that you can see also as part of the integration platform. This was very relevant for the client to have an abstraction layer and to really make sure that data performance is always assured at all times. Also, a very important part of this architecture I want to emphasize is the marketplace. We wanted to have one single marketplace where SAP and MuleSoft APIs are published, and across all the companies and across all the different departments, developers or any person that is interested could look into this API management. It's basically a catalog, search for APIs, get more information, and also start the approval process if the person wants to use then this API. We have initially done this for the procurement domain at the client. You can see here the red circle around, and this was our first step, but we also want to also include other departments now, finance, for example, HR, or production as well. And our goal is, what you can see here, that we want to have a common marketplace and a common community, which is also important. So we want to have a platform where different developers can exchange information, they can discuss about different integration topics, they can work on integrations together. So for example, we had one integration that needs to be developed. It was about integrating a currency exchange system where you could get dollar or euro exchange rates on a daily basis. And this was an integration that was relevant for a lot of different departments. And this API was developed once and could then be used by a lot of also other departments. We approach this in general. It is a huge platform, as I've just showed, with a lot of different technology components. And we decided to implement this in 3 steps. So the first step was MuleSoft and API Marketplace. We wanted to really establish this community, get the marketplace started, and invite also the different departments to upload and publish the API there, and also to get the conversation started. Next step is then SAP technologies that we want to integrate there, and finally the data virtualization layer. Also important, you can see at the bottom, apart from all the technology things, it's also important that you find or define a lot of processes, you define the organization behind it. For example, you need to define processes, how to get approval for using one API, or processes for integrating new projects, new APIs. And all these processes, roles, and responsibilities we're doing in addition to that. And we have also defined a competence center, which is basically a center that supports the different projects and departments in publishing their APIs in the marketplace. I will now hand over to Gabor, who will show us how we have used LeanIX in our project.
Thank you, Philipp. So in our experience, or from our experience, the use of APIs has increased significantly over the past 10 years. Various integration architectures, styles, platforms, technologies, tools, or services have evolved over the time to reduce the complexity. Together with experts from LeanIX, we have chosen 3 different examples of integration architecture modeling options in LeanIX. And the first and the second example, marked with the green circle you can see on the page, focuses on modern API integration. The third example, marked with the gray circle, as you can see on the page, focuses on the classic point-to-point integration. So on the next page, we will want to start with the first example. LeanIX recommends 2 different approaches in order to modeling API integrations. We start with the first LeanIX best practice approach to modeling API integrations as an IT component. The graphic helps you to make yourself familiarize yourself with the LeanIX methodology. The fact sheets, data objects, interface, IT components can be used to model API integrations in LeanIX. If necessary, additional data objects or IT components can be connected to the interface in order to model more complex API integration or API services. So this approach has the following key benefits. In most of the scenarios, middleware should be an IT component, modeled as an IT component in LeanIX in order to enable the end-to-end data flow. Also, it allows a direct link to the application connected to the middleware without having a double model as an application, which provides a cleaner IT landscape. This also enables different kinds of LeanIX reports and diagrams, like data flow reports or technology reports, matrix reports, or a free drawing modeling. The disadvantages of this approach is that there's really no way to model a connection between separate middleware instances in LeanIX if you're using this approach, and it's limited to the landscape report in LeanIX without connections to the business aspect of the organizations, such as business capabilities or user groups. So we have prepared a sample data flow diagram in LeanIX just to illustrate this first approach. As you can see, there is an ARP application which provides via a standard middleware component pricing information to the consuming, to the backend of the consuming parts catalog application. The interface is here modeled as an API services. So the second approach, which we have prepared here, is a sample data flow diagram, which shows a connection between the source system and middleware component. Here's an example for a data virtualization layer, which is modeled as an API, as an application. So this is the second example, the modeling of an API integration as an application in LeanIX. So, and in this case, the middleware component provides via a standard via the data virtualization layer an RP interface for the consuming backend of the, in this case, a financial system, in order to provide currency exchange rates information. This approach has the following key benefits. It provides visibility on most of the LeanIX reports as they are application-centric. And it enables application rationalization modeling in LeanIX. Also, it enables data flow diagrams, and it enables the possibility to create business capabilities and user groups relation views in LeanIX reporting. Disadvantage of this approach is that middleware application needs to be double modeled as an IT component, just in order to enable the technology metrics and landscape reporting. And it's not really efficient when using fact sheet count, as they can lead to incorrect assumptions for the user. So this is the third and last example we have prepared, just as a strong contrast to the modern API integration. We have here prepared in LeanIX sample data flow for classic point-to-point integration. In this example, we have modeled a legacy interface. It's modeled as a manual CSV export, which provides customer profile data, in this example, to the backend of the consuming a CRM application. Just to mention here, when you are using or when you want to use legacy interfaces or to model legacy interfaces in LeanIX, it's very important to consider different design guidelines. First, typical for the legacy interfaces like CSV export it's essential to define your own application to provide good data. And second, if you want to add manual interfaces, only add them if they're important from a business point of view. So we would like to summarize the most important points. First of all, the combination of different middleware tools and technologies can be very valuable for large-scale enterprises, especially. Second, alternative solution scenarios are important to define modern integration architecture. Third, the usage of integration platforms really helps to reduce point-to-point integration and to save significantly development and operation costs for APIs. And last but not least, the examples have shown that complex integration architectures can be visualized very, very well with LeanIX. In LeanIX with the data flow diagrams and the out-of-the-box LeanIX reporting views. I hope we could provide you a good overview about our experience with modern integration architectures, and happy to answer your questions.
First of all, thank you very much, Philipp and Gabor.